So now I want to talk about the carbon fiber structure and leading into the formulation of the wings. Just in general, you can see I got some 10 mil thick protruded carbon fiber, 39 inches here of that leading up to the nose, and we got a couple of 10 millimeter or 8 millimeter diameter carbon fibers there, and I've cut these two pieces in two. You can see, so that we'll have room. This will become the sliding in portion. So this carbon fiber right here that I'm holding here will actually be the wing tube. So, and the wing tube will go into the center of a three-winged section here, which I don't actually have three, but what will happen here is, if I can show this, what will happen is I'll have a centerpiece inside the wing here. Let me kind of show it if I can. And in that centerpiece, I'll just use this to demonstrate it. So we're going to have a structure here. Bear with me a second here while I position this. And the wing will actually look like this. You can imagine that. And we're going to have, if I could get this balanced, I'll show you what I'm trying to show you. Okay, there we go. So essentially we'll have this like this. There we go. That's what I want to show. So we're going to have a three wing surfaces here, and a wing tube that will go into the wing. And it's not, you get the idea. I'm not able to do it perfectly here, but the idea here is then we'll be able to put this wing tube into the surface like this, you know, and have the wing then fit into the side of this right there and right here. And then I'm going to be making a biconvex wedge airfoil. And what we'll do is when this is all glued up, all three of the wing pieces are glued up, I'll strike a line here 2 inches from the leading edge and 3.5 inches from the trailing edge, and I'm going to take a sander and sand down a wedge on a firm guide here. So I'll put a piece of metal across here and have this at the end of the table, so I can sand down this wedge and also on the trailing edge to a point. And we'll have that it'll be fully symmetrical on both sides of the wing. And then this wing will be a nice airfoil. And then once that this is done and is glued together, I'll be able to, going back to the original model here, these items will be, I have yet to cut out a piece. I'm just showing this as an example. This will be cut out here, and we'll have a piece on the top here and a piece on the bottom, so that again this will serve as a wing tube inlet. So this will be able to slide in like this and become the wing tube for the wing sections that we just showed, that will then plug into this and plug in on this side. So that's the evil plan. I'm waiting now on my last tube to be able to do this, and of course I have some epoxy. I'm gonna attempt to put this together with some epoxy and press these together, because hot glue is not not a very good way to do that because it cools too fast before you squeeze the sections together. Whereas epoxy will have some working time, and I'll put some big weight on top of the wings. And again, there'll be 3 sections thick, so they'll be 30 millimeters thick. But I will have a wedge airfoil starting from 2 inches back that will wedge to a point, and a wedge to a point on the trailing edge as well. And then when I get that wedge done and get this airfoiled up nicely, I'll be able to then cut the aileron. So that's the next steps. Now, if I can go back here to the original thing I was going to show, here we have the sections, and I've decided to lay out this carbon fiber rather meticulously for excellent rigidity and strength in this model. And so we're going to have these tubes glued here, and they will be sandwiched, as I said before, in with another whole fuse sandwiched down on top of these, and then also on the underside. And then we will have one former here, carbon fiber. This is a protruded rod, if you can see it there. It's 10 millimeters protruded rod, very sturdy material, and that will come up like this. And the center line, the thrust line, and then of course the EDF is still scheduled to be placed right here, thereabouts, something like this. So that's going to be its position right behind that rod. And again, we have the nose section here that will be added here. And this will probably come right to the tip of the nose. So, in a situation more along those lines right there. Now, this tube here is too big. It's too long. And I can demonstrate that by taking one of these wing halves and showing that rather readily here. So, assuming this is a triple wing half, like I showed, you can see here this is going to come in like this. And we see that this tube is too long, so I'm going to have to whack it off about right here, because again there will also be a bevel here, and that bevel will come in, so we don't want this protruding through the bevel. So that remains to be decided upon. I think this is going to be cut off almost in half here from this distance. Maybe the last 4 inches at least will be cut off. So that is it. That's the plan. And one thing I've not done yet is haven't connected the elevator. The elevator must be connected like this. And then the final thing I'll have to do is, as far as the structure, is to develop the vertical fuse. It's just going to be a vertical fuse like this, somewhat different size than this, but it'll go from the nose back to the upright, the vertical control surface. And still haven't decided fully, now that I've gotten into this project, whether or not I'm going to have 2 uprights, one on each side, akin to the 6th generation, 5th generation kind of airplanes, or whether I'm just going to go ahead and have one single fuse and one single upright. I'm getting ready to use this Harbor Freight sander. I just want to show it here. It's a really nice sander, $39 from Harbor Freight. It's got the catcher for the dust, and so I just used this on a piece of foam. I'm just going to show that here. You can see what a nice bevel that makes. You can see the edge there, and it's a very smooth. It's a very smooth cut for just for 80 grit sandpaper. Here I'm showing the wing spar work, and what I've done here is I've cut out and placed some carbon fiber tubing here, And what I wanted to do was to achieve a very strong airframe, lightweight. I did purchase these solid rods. So here's an example of a solid rod with a solid end. And then also we have the hollow end. So you can kind of see here, comparing those two. This is the solid rod and the rod with a hole, essentially a square tube. This is quite a bit heavier, so I'm going to try not to use this as much as I possibly can, but I have put this from the center of the section clear to the tip of the nose as a support. Now what I wanted to show is I'm going to make this so that the wings are removable, and just like the typical sport planes and IMAC planes that have the tubes in the wings. And what I've done here is I've cut this out so this will slide out, in and out like this, as you can see, and can be removed. The next process here, you see I've got one cut out. I have to cut out this tube right there, so it will be just like this one and slide in. Then what's going to happen is I have these wings, and I'm going to be shaping these wings with sandpaper to get my airfoil. And I'm going to be doing a wedge, and it will be an airfoil that will be easy to make with a sander. Now you see how this is going to fit here. So we have our wing, and then it's going to slide over. See, so I have this wing on in here as a little larger size, and I wanted to do that so there's no airflow between the wing. So in other words, I didn't want to have it out like this, and to have this crack between the fuse and the wing. So I moved it over to this point like this in order to gain stability as well with that ledge hanging system here. So essentially it's going to be something like this, and then on the bottom we'll have another one coming in on the bottom, and none of this stuff is glued up here. Put the camera down here for just a moment. Okay. And that's actually pretty close to what I'm looking for, just to show it right now. A little mock-up here. Something like that. Of course, this back section is not in place yet. I'll just kind of lay it in here so we can kind of get an idea. Now, it's quite a thick airfoil, but you can see now that the whole thing is sandwiched. So the wing, when it's all glued up, will be able to be pulled in and out, if I so desire to do that. We're going to sand this front edge down so that it meets the center here. So we'll have a nice wedged airfoil, and then in the back we'll do the same thing about 3.5 inches in, and we're going to sand it down to the center for the spar here, the main spar, and the front spars for both wings. You can see it's coming out very nicely. I thought this was going to be a pain to cut, but using the L square, I was able to get very tight fits here on both sides. Both wings are now in place, and this thing is starting to look like a jet, and we're going to finish this and make it amazing. We do have now everything glued in as far as this piece here is glued. These are glued. Still not, again, deciding whether I'm just going to glue this whole thing. I have to really do some measurements. Wingspan here is about 48 inches, and I think that'll fit nicely into my my SUV, but I'm going to make that measurement, and that'll be a big determination as to whether I'm going to actually make these pluggable. Now, the one thing about making them pluggable that's not good is with repeated movements back and forth, sliding this in and out, these foam pieces are going to wear, and it'll start to get sloppy. So, you know, in the typical wing tube designs, they actually have another section of fiberglass that accepts this. That's more sturdy. Will handle more wear. But this foam is so fragile, and it's just about pointing to the decision to go ahead and just glue this all in, glue everything in tightly, and just go ahead and complete it here. And again, we've got the wings now. These wing pieces, let me show those again. They will go right in nicely like this. On the one side here, if I've cut them correctly. Looks pretty good. Of course, this will all have to be tweaked in when the sanding happens. You know, the edge here is pretty close, but it's not exactly lining up. Doesn't really matter at this point, because I have plenty of opportunity to change that during the sanding process. So we lay this in right on top of this, and that is coming out really nice. Should line up very nicely. I cut these all the same. That was the intent anyway. Pretty good. And what I'll have to do here is, looks like I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjustments here at the end where it didn't come out just right, and then also I'll be trimming these pieces back. That's all in the final sanding when we get things working well. And of course, we're going to have on the trailing section for the elevator, will be going on, like this, with the standard hinging, beveling this 45 degrees and using Velcro, which I'm finding works really nice. The 10-pound strength Velcro piece, it's already sticky back. You just cut it and put it on there, and you're done. So that'll make a nice elevator section there. And that's starting to look like the jet.